Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some items from Trinity Stamps. I'm using the Celebrate cupcake, the teacup, the birthday. I showed the stamps and the dies, but I ended up only using the stamps. And then the celebration balloons, and then the rays. Again, I showed them, but I didn't end up using them. So we're going to get right into the technique for coloring, DIY coloring vellum. You can buy vellum in different colors, and they will be no texture. They'll be flat, which is great. But sometimes you just want a color that matches the project you're working on right now. So here's two ways to do it. The first way that I did it was with a Copic marker. This way you can still see the streaks of the color. The other way, which is the way that I prefer to do it, is the alcohol ink. Now, you can also use Copic reinkers or any other alcohol marker reinkers that you have. You can use those as well. And then you won't get the streakiness because it's not being applied in marker form. I'm just drying it. That's what I'm doing there. I did end up flipping this over. Like when I die cut them, I put the inked side to the back of the card, but this works really, really well. You can also, if you want a lighter version, they have these little like foam pads, and they have a handle for them. And I used to have the handles for them, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what happened to them. So I'm using a foam, round foam one. I don't know what happened to my square ones. But anyway, it's much lighter, even when you don't use the why can I never remember the blending solution? It's still a much lighter application than if you just put it on and then kind of let it just spread and do its thing. Then it's much brighter. And since vellum kind of like, I don't want to say dims everything. What is the word I'm looking for? It makes it more subtle, especially because we're flipping it around and using the back side. I didn't want a color that was too light. I didn't want it to be a pastel. I wanted it to be bright because those are the types of colors that I prefer. So I ended up using a couple of different colors. I wasn't really sure what colors I was going to use in my card yet. So I just picked 5 colors that I knew were contenders, I guess, for my card. And then I just set this, once I had them all down, I just set them aside to completely dry. Once they're completely dry, nothing chips off, flakes off, comes off on your hands, anything like that. They dry pretty quickly because the alcohol evaporates. So it's a really, really great way to kind of DIY custom colors for what you need. Now I'm going to be using them so that my balloons are transparent. I can color balloons to look transparent, but these will actually be transparent, which I think is kind of a lot of fun, especially if you're not a colorist and you're looking for another way to do it. This is a really easy way to accomplish that same kind of look. So this card is for my sister's birthday. My sister's birthday is the 27th, so tomorrow. And we are celebrating her birthday. Normally we try to do everything separate, but since Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve both fall on a Sunday, usually we do her birthday on the Sunday in between. Well, now we don't have a Sunday in between because Sunday's the day. You know what I'm saying? So we are going to be celebrating her birthday on New Year's Eve, and I needed to have a card to give her. So my sister loves coffee and cake and the color red, and that's how we got to where we're at here. So I have done a card before with the teacup and with the cupcake. And I really thought that they would look super cute together with these little balloons and some little florals. The florals basically gave me another way to bring in another color. But really, okay, I'm just going to be honest with you. I struggle with the color scheme, and this one is a struggle for me. Now, normally we talk about, the way to pick your colors when you are looking at the color wheel. We've talked about this a couple of different ways. There's nothing wrong with the colors that I picked, but it isn't necessarily a traditional combination. It's not a split complement. The split complement would be yellow-green, which is why it was a contender. But I liked the teal better with the purple, and so I just went with it. The red always throws me because it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite color, but it is my sister's and it's not my card. So decisions were made, and I hope that she loves it. Before we get too much further into the video, I do want to say Trinity is having a sale, for an end of the year sale, and it's going till the 31st, and it's a really good one. So basically, anybody, for any amount of money you're spending, you can get 10% off with the code yearend10. But as you spend more money, the percentage goes up. So for $50, you can get 15% off, $100, $20, $200, $25, $300, $30. So it's a really good one. And especially like if you're someone maybe who's been on the fence for like their blender buddies, which I absolutely love, would be a really good time to get them up. Now, that is by no means, and there's tons of other year-end sales. I'll be updating my craft deals page pretty regularly through the end of the year, but that by no means is like a sales push. This is just hey, if you had your eye on something that maybe you didn't get for the holidays that you thought that you were, or maybe you got something that you ended up, was the wrong size and you have to return it and now you're looking for a gift to fill in the blank. Like these are really good sales if you are already shopping. If you're not shopping, then no worries. Don't, you know what I mean? Then that PSA is not for you. So for the mug, I colored it red along with the saucer. I did leave a little bit of a white kind of trim on the lip just to make it a little more interesting. I do plan to go in later and do like a white polka dot on the mug, and that's how that will tie in. Here, I should have done the white before I did the red, but I didn't, and it ended up being okay. But do your lighter colors before you do your darker colors, so that way you don't have to worry about anything smearing or running into each other. So yeah, the other thing that I need your help with is this is the second video that I have done with the new camera. The first video I did, I went in and I played around with the brightness and the temperature. This one, I went in and made it brighter because it felt dark, but I didn't play around with the temperature. I want you to tell me what it looks like to you. Does it look too dark? Does it look too cool? Like too many blue tones? Does it need to be warmed up for it to make sense? To me, when I'm looking at it, it does look a bit cool, which is why the previous video, I did kind of manipulate the temperature to make it a little bit warmer so that the colors would be more true. But I want to know what it looks like to you guys, because this is so funny. My husband came in here the other day while I was editing, and this was obviously before Christmas, and he was like, "Why is your screen so dark?" And I was like, "Is it?" And he was like, "Yeah." So then I went into the brightness, and sure enough, my brightness was set at like 25%. So I was like, is the video too dark, or was my screen too dark? Like now I'm not 100% sure. So that is why I would like your feedback on what it looks like to you. So this version is brightened because it still looked dark to me, but it is not, I didn't change the temperature at all. So if you guys could just give me some feedback, I always appreciate that. Speaking of before Christmas, it was a whirlwind kind of couple of days. It was wild to get all of the things done that we needed to get done. It was wonderfully exhausting. That's really the only way that I can describe it. Friday, what did we do Friday? Friday he was off. I was still working. Saturday, we did not have Peanut during the day. He was at his dad's house. So we tried to get done as much wrapping as we could while the little jelly bean was napping. And he was more successful than I was. So then once she got up, he always does this every year. The department does a like a little Santa parade for the kids in the hospital. And so they do that every year. So he went and picked up Peanut and they went and did that. I was home with Lil Jelly Bean, and so I didn't get very much wrapping done, just a little bit. Then that night, we finished up whatever wrapping that we needed for the next day. The next day began it's like a triathlon. It was like sprint, weight, bike, weight, like it was crazy. So we got up at 8. I got up at 8:30. I think Eric was up at 8. I was up at 8:30, because his family was coming for breakfast. So we needed to, like start prepping stuff and then get ourselves ready as well, like showers, dress, teeth brushings, all of those things, as well as get her ready. And then I went and picked up Peanut, brought him back. We did breakfast together, and then we opened gifts. And then pretty much right after we were done opening gifts, it was time for her to go down for her nappy. And then his family left. We had a small lull in which I was putting together the ham and the cheesy potatoes in the crock pot. And then we actually were both able to catch short little naps. Let's go back to the card. So I went kind of back and forth about what color to color the wrapper, and I decided to do gold. Now, the way that I've just done it with all of the shading, you could absolutely leave it that way if you wanted just a shiny gold look. I wanted more of a glittery look, and so I'm going to go back in and I'm going to use stippling to create that glitter look. The reason you do the shading first is because it really helps to have solid color. It also helps you to know where to put your dots. So I'm going back in with my darkest color and I'm putting my small dots directly over and just a little outside of its own color. And then I'm going to do the same thing each time going back through. So like the YR24, I'm doing dots all over the YR24 and then just a little bit out into the Y08. For the Y08, which is my lightest color in this case, because I did leave some spacing for some white highlights so it would look shiny, the Y08 will go over everything. So that's kind of the trick to the glitter, is the lighter colors you're going to put over the darker colors and then over themselves. This is going to create a lot of variation in in this case, the cupcake wrapper, but whatever it is that you're coloring. You do this with dresses or, really any object. But that's what's going to make it look like it's a glittery gold versus a, just a more modern gold. The way to finish it off so that it's really super looks glittery is to do white dots with your gel pen over top of all of that. I did not go back in and do that, honestly, just because I forgot. I had planned to do it when I got to the white gel pen portion, and I totally just forgot about it. I did the cupcake chocolate because this is the cake that my sister has requested, is a chocolate cake with vanilla frosting. And so that is what I will be making in order to make it slightly more fancy. She has requested a ganache that will go on top of it, and I am happy to make her whatever cake she would like. So for the frosting, I chose to go with some warmer grays, just because I had already used the cooler grays for the white in the cup, and I didn't want them to look the same. This cupcake is great. It's drawn super well. There's a lot of open area, but there's also plenty of areas to shade to make it look dimensional. So I'm going in with my darkest color. I am just slightly extending out any of the lines where it's kind of sitting on top of itself. And then on the corners, I'm also doing a little round area, like a little round piece. And then blending the lighter color into the inside. So I'm leaving this white edge around the outside. This is going to help give it like a ton of dimension. And then I'm just going to work my way out to my lightest color, which is going to be a W3. There is still lots and lots of genuine white with no color on it. And that's what's going to help it still retain its whiteness, even though we've added quite a bit of shading. But since this is such a well-sized cupcake, you don't really have to worry about the gray being too gray. So I've lined up all of the die cuts for those. And then these are the balloons. In the celebration balloons, they have some I guess like the style is like the infinity kind of thing where you have like stacking dies where they're all the same balloon but they're different sizes. And then they also have other shapes. So they have a little heart one, they have one that's a little bit more round, they have like a tall squiggly one. It's a really great balloon die set. But like I said, just showing you there that I'm die cutting it from the back so that the part that is actually has the ink on it will face the background. Here I laid everything out and it became pretty apparent that my flowers were too pink, and so in order to fix that I just picked a VO4, which is a very bright purple. It's going to complement that top balloon, and I just went right over everything that I had already colored. That's not going to get rid of my shading, it's just going to give everything a purple tint. For the background, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, so I decided I was just going to incorporate some of the same colors we had already seen. So I did a little bit of hickory smoke, and then I added, this is black soot. I know you never saw me ink it up, but here's the thing about these blending buddies. They put down so much color with such little effort that if you have a well-seasoned brush, if you want a light application, you don't really have to pick up any extra color. You're going to see it here again with the red because I recently did that video for Erin Lee. And so I was doing lots of ink blending with my red that I never even needed to pick up the barn door. I had plenty of red that was left on my brush. And because these come with their own caps, like I don't have to worry about that ink getting anywhere. It just holds ink and applies it down really well, really evenly. They are my favorite because I like a lot of pigment. So I also like shiny things. This is no surprise. So I am using Perfect Pearls in the color Perfect Pearls, mixing that with a little bit of water and then just kind of spattering it all over the background. This is just going to add some interest and some shine. I went back and forth whether or not to trim it down and matte it on another color, and ultimately I decided not to. I was just going to leave it like this. So I'm going to lay out all of my die cuts here, and then I'm going to start gluing everything down. For the balloons, so I wanted to pop them up, but because they're transparent, there's really no good way to do that without the recipient being able to see the adhesive. That's one of the things about like acetate or vellum, because it is transparent, it does cool things like this, where you can see the teal balloon behind the purple and the purple behind the red balloon, and it looks really awesome. But that doesn't mean that you can see the adhesive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use just a little teeny dot of glue, and I'm going to make sure that I spread that out to glue the two smaller balloons to the larger purple balloon. Once I have them as one piece, then I'm going to take white die cut pieces that I have already, I've already die cut these out. They're using the same dies, and I'm going to back these. You can't see the liquid adhesive very much at all because of the alcohol coloring that we did and because that has its own texture. But what it is going to do is it's going to give me a backer so that I will be able to pop these up on my card without anybody seeing my foam dots. And I did go back and forth about whether or not to put actual strings on them. And ultimately, I decided that I was just going to draw the strings on the card and not have to go into like taping thread and all that stuff. But that would be really cute. And that's totally another option. So once I have those, I know where they're going to go. I'm just going to go ahead and put some foam adhesive behind them and then put them onto the card. Once I get everything else adhered, then I will go in and draw my my little thread lines, string, whatever you want to call it. But basically, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do each one of these kind of the same way. I put a little bit of glue on my bigger pieces or whatever pieces on top, and then I press it down just light enough to pick up the piece behind it. And then once I have them as a whole piece, then I will glue them down to the card. This is an alternative to using the press and seal. I really do like the press and seal, but sometimes I just don't want to have to get into burnishing the whole thing down when I feel like I can just glue them to each other and then glue them as individual or as one large cohesive piece instead of individual pieces. So yeah, Anywho, so that was the beginning part of Sunday, Christmas Eve. And then, so we had a little bit of a lull. Everybody kind of got a nap. Caitlin got a nap. Eric and I got naps. Nathan didn't nap. He just kind of laid around on the couch. And then we started round 2, which was my family coming over, and we kept it super easy. We bought some corned beef from a local family shop here. I made a ham. We did sandwiches and like a charcuterie board, some dips, things like that. And the reason, just in case you're not aware, the reason that we need to do it that way is because we are a blended family, which means this year was my year for Christmas Eve, and so in order for everybody, Eric's side of the family, my side of the family, to be able to get to see him, we have to do the whole thing on Christmas Eve. Even though we do get together as a family on Christmas, he's just not there. So basically the whole day is for, him and for everybody to get to see him. And it's exhausting, but totally worth it. So there's the polka dots that I did. I also went in and did some glitter pen on the cupcake, on the highlights of the balloons, on the coffee, like the little saucer, the flowers. And then here I wanted to put a white highlight on my vellum, but the pen didn't work for that. And so I chose my opaque white Copic ink, and that did work. And I was just able to paint my highlights on. Once everything was down, then I went in and just added a little bit of shadow, so it had a little bit more ground underneath it. And because I chose cool grays for my ink blending, the hickory smoke and the black soot, I went in with cool grays to do my shadow as well. I did not color in all of the white outlines for my die cut pieces. I did do the part that was laying on the gray, but because we have this kind of like white gap in between, I didn't think the white at the top looked bad, so I just left it. And then for this one, it says happy birthday to you, but the happy birthday to you is a little bit long. So I decided I was going to heat emboss it on black and white, and then I was going to trim it so I could just have the happy birthday in just kind of a smaller sentiment. And because I already have a lot going on in this card, so I didn't want to overtake any of the colored items by having a really large sentiment. So I trimmed that into a label. I am going to use these foam strips from Trinity. These are great little small strips. They're already pre-cut. These are also great because Trinity does a lot of shakers. They have really great embellishments. So if you're a person who likes to build shakers, these are wonderful because you can bend them to complete the circuit to traps your shaker bits. Speaking of shaker bits, once I had my sentiment on, I used, hold on, I'm going to remember the name of it. It's one of the, I'll link it. It's one of the reflecting ones. The rhinestones that change colors. You guys know these are my favorite. Like they go from like a pinkish, purplish to greenish, yellowish. They're awesome. They're really fantastic. And you'll be able to probably see the different colors here when they're in the tray. And so I used a couple of these to just accent my sentiment down to the bottom left and up to the top right. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So I hope this inspires you guys to try your own coloring your own vellum. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget to check out the crafty deals that are going on through the end of the year. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.